Grüezi ragazzi, willkommen e bienvenue to Cannabis Science's LinkedIn Live for this week. Today, we will be speaking with Medcan from Switzerland, the Patient Association, to discuss medical cannabis in Switzerland from a patient perspective. To those of you joining us live, thank you for being here with us today. And for those of you who will be checking out the recording at a later time, also a big thank you to you. We hope that you enjoyed today's session and perhaps will have left today's session having learned something new. A little intro about us. Cannabis Scienza aims to tackle the bottlenecks of the medical cannabis industry using the power of education and through the training of healthcare professionals on the effective use of cannabinoid medicines. In doing so, increasing access to medical cannabis for patients worldwide. On your screen right now, you see an overview of our services as well as a QR code, which you can scan to get in touch with us. Also, something that we would like to share with you today, we have the upcoming release of our Principles of Clinical Cannabinology Handbook. It's just around the corner. Amongst other things, it covers the endocannabinoid system, clinical practices, regulatory landscapes, as well as available products in different jurisdictions. If you're interested in learning more about the handbook, reserving your copy, or learning more about sponsorship opportunities, you can scan the QR code that's on your screen now. And last but not least, we would invite everyone that's in the audience today to please head over to Cannabis Science's LinkedIn page, as well as the page of Medcan, and please hit that subscribe button or follow, whichever one it is. And we do have something special planned once we hit 1,000 followers, so more on that very soon. And like I mentioned, today we are going to be talking about Switzerland, and we are joined today by the core team of the Medcan group in Switzerland. And so I'd like to pass it on to my guests or our guests today, Franziska Quadri and Simon Winnesdorfer. If you could please give a quick introduction. And again, thank you very much for being here with us today. Franziska, if I may pass it on to you first, perhaps.
Thank you for having us here. My name is Franziska Quadri. I'm the president of Medical Cannabis Association Switzerland since 2015. I have had an accident 2009. I broke my neck and I have strong neuropathic pain and spasms. This is why I use cannabis as a medicine myself and fight for my right to use it as a medicine.
Good evening. Nice to having me as well. I'm Simon Winnesdorfer. I have multiple sclerosis, and that's the reason I advocate for medical cannabis. I was coming to the association Medcan 1 year later than Franziska in the end of 2015. I'm the vice president, and I'm working since 8 years now for this new law we have since August 1st in Switzerland.
Thank you guys for the intro. Also, for anybody in the audience, I'm seeing that there are some comments. I hope everyone is able to see the video. Please, if there's any issues with audio or anything like that, feel free to comment it. I am keeping an eye on the comments, but without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Viola to kick off our conversation.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, especially to Medcan, to be here and spend a little bit of time together so that hopefully this session can be useful for anyone listening today that not only lives in Switzerland, to whom I would remind actually to check out Medcan website and apply and become a member, because it's a phenomenal group of support. But actually to anyone around in any other country, because as they were just saying to us before, just now, the issues that they're facing are very, very similar to the issues that patients around Europe are facing. So if we can learn from every localized experience, that we can hopefully find solutions that can be applied in other countries too. And with this, I would really like to start, since you two gave an intro on how you got into the association, really starting from the beginning, for either of the two who would like to reply to my questions on how did you first heard about the potential use of cannabis, whether that was for multiple sclerosis or for a spinal cord injury and for neuropathic pain? What was the chain of thoughts that brought you there? Was that through word of mouth or through personal studies or through your healthcare professionals? How was the pathway to cannabis, and what was really your first thought when you first started to think on using cannabis to try and alleviate some of your symptoms?
Yeah, I was in a hospital in central Switzerland, in Nottwil. That's a huge hospital for people with paralysis. And I see every evening that the people are sitting outside smoking joints, and I thought to try it also. I have used cannabis for recreational use, so I didn't have a problem to get some. And I immediately was very happy about it. I realized this is the substance that helps me against the pain and the spasms the best. And I always told the doctors from the beginning, but it was not possible for me to prescribe it because it was still forbidden in Switzerland.
For me was I choose the pharmaceutical way in the beginning. So I was taking a lot of medicines, in the end maybe 15 pills per day for a lot of side effects only. So I was looking out for something to change because my life was really bad in this time. So I looked into other country and saw people who have huge success with cannabis therapy, especially with my condition, multiple sclerosis. And I've also experienced in my use with recreational cannabis. So I tried it out and have a huge success. And then maybe in 1 year and a half, I can reduce all of my pharmaceutical pills for side effects to almost zero. So I have a much better life quality because of this change. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to follow up on what Francisca just said, on the fact that the status of cannabis when she started to see that actually could be beneficial was still an illegal narcotic within your jurisdiction from in Switzerland. Just as a reminder for anyone listening, we're still not within 1 year of the new medical law in Switzerland, but as they're saying, things for patients haven't changed so much because there hasn't been much of an activation. But still, on a theory level, now things are different. But at the time you were talking about 2009, it was completely considered an illegal narcotic. So I was wondering how within your personal experience has been the acceptance of the fact that not only a plant, but also a plant that is an illegal narcotic was going to be helpful, could be alleviating some of the symptoms. Because I guess there is first the personal acceptance of that, but then there is also all the conversation to be having with friends, caretakers, family, healthcare professionals. So how all of this went about? Was it easy for you? Was it more complicated once the people started to see the effects for you? Were they on board, or did you live through stigma for this?
Yeah, maybe I can start. So in the beginning, I was a bit scared to tell my parents, and I always ask my friends when they came to the hospital to roll joints for me, and then I started to use them as a medicine. I was always talking to the doctors about it, and they just let me doing it. They told me they cannot help me, but when it helps me, so I should go on with it. Yeah, and then I always I always talked about it. I was not quiet. I knew this is the substance that helps me the best. And all the other medicaments I have had as an option, they were much stronger, made me more stoned, more, I couldn't really be awake all the time. So yeah, I knew cannabis is the right thing for me. So I was not afraid to telling the people and to fight for my right.
Yeah, it was the same with me. I was always very open with everybody, maybe also a little bit annoying with my doctors because I was really frustrated. Something was so hugely available, was so complicated to prescribe. So I was really angry, and maybe that was also the reason I was go into MedCan to make this happen. But the doctors were also always really open, but they also told me they couldn't prescribe me anything. So they told me go on with what you're doing on the black market. So yeah, the support were very little, but I've never really bad for anything from any kind of doctors or healthcare workers or something. It's always good for answers.
And I guess this is how Medcan started, basically
Yeah.
supplying what you couldn't find for yourself out there in terms of support and information and communication with the healthcare professional. When was Medcan founded, and what are the objectives of Medcan?
Medcan was founded 2014 by Bruno Hildebrand and his friends. He was also a cannabis patient with ALS, I think. And yeah, he just wanted to change the law in Switzerland, and he wanted to give the patients an option to meet them and to discuss the problem and to help them themselves. So this is what we still doing. So we have monthly meetings in Zurich and in Bern, and an online meeting every month as well. And we meet and inform the patients, help them, give them advice how they can how they should talk to the doctors. And in the moment, our situation changed a bit. Until now, we have been fighting in the opposition to get access to legal access to cannabis, and now we have this change of the Narcotic Act, and now doctors can prescribe it. And now we are in the situation that we want to collect the information and give it to the patients, because there is still very difficult, because no doctors and no pharmacists, the doctors and the pharmacists don't really know what they have to do, and the patients don't know. So yeah, there must be one place where you can get informations, and this is what we try to do in the moment.
Thank you. I see from the audience that someone, Martin, thank you for asking if Medcan is also working with other countries. And I would like to remind that Medcan is part with so many other patient association groups, actually, of the IACM Patient Council. And this is such a great initiative that managed to put together under the same umbrella different patient associations, European patient associations. And I know that both of you are also part of those meetings, and maybe you want to give like a little brief conversation about what goes on in there and what's happening and what countries are involved.
Maybe I can talk a little about this. The ELSM Council formed maybe 2 years ago, so we want to collect different countries. So it's all one representative of each country who represent the country's associations. So till now we are collected 23 different countries who working together and make a monthly meeting all together. And we try to get the voice at the EU Parliament, at the UN Rat, and then we also want to give a voice for patients to make the industry and the doctors listen also a little bit to us, because I think it's very important. We are like a triangle, like the patients, the producers, pharmacies, and the doctors. And this new laws only going to work when we all work together. And we want to make this happen because each country fight almost the same fights. So we want to get a bigger voice to make it easier for us to listen.
Thank you.
Yeah, it would be sorry. It would be so important that we are listening or watching other countries, that we are not doing the same mistakes. In Germany, they have a medical cannabis law for 2017. And I mean, it would be very good when the Swiss doctors would look to over the border to Germany and see what mistake has been, what the mistake they made. And we see that in Switzerland, they do the same mistakes they have done in Germany. And this is why I think the ICM Council is very important, that we can connect internationally as patient and fight against it on an international level.
I think that's a very great point, Franziska, particularly considering that all these different markets are in different stages of development. So it's relevant for to learn what can be avoided, how can steps be taken the right way, what already worked in one place. So I think not only what MedCan is doing, but especially the IACM, it's really incredible. And to anybody watching, please do head over also to the IACM website to see how you can support. Maybe there's also patient groups in your local country. So for Martin, who was asking, perhaps there's already an association in your country. And if there isn't, then let today's session be an inspiration for you to lay the groundwork to maybe get a patient association also started in your jurisdiction as well.
Totally, and I think is vital what Franziska is saying, in the sense that, for example, something that we are all witnessing is the possibility of diminishing, for example, patient access in Germany through having just specialized doctors being able to prescribe cannabis, which, in my opinion, is quite disastrous situation for patient access, because, as you all know, the more general practitioners actually that are on board with cannabis, the easier is going to be to have a true access to the medicine. But then also, and this is a point that, even though we have just the last 10 minutes, I really would like to touch with both of you. There is that we use just one word, cannabis therapy, but then it's actually so many different things. And I guess the role as well of your group, and being able to come as a patient to your group, is getting that type of support that only if you find a very educated doctor you can find, which is actually understanding what type of products really could work the best for your condition, especially considering that most of the time there is quite a lot of drug interactions going on, because for many people, when they arrive to cannabis, they don't use just cannabis as the sole medication. So there are all of these different factors to take in consideration. And I wanted to ask each of you, if you want to spare a couple of minutes, on, did you find, I know that for many years for you, access hasn't been easy because it wasn't even legal, but in your experience, however that was, whether through black, gray, white market, did you see in your personal experience, for example, some products working best for some of your symptoms and managing to kind of find a continuity with that? Or was kind of like, okay, cannabis in general works, and anything I use, it will work for my symptoms? Like, did you ever have moments in which, okay, it was a cannabis product, but this I'm not going to use because actually this is, let's say, too much THC for what I'm looking at? Or I don't know. I'm just trying to put out topics so you can.
Maybe
Yeah.
I can start.
Yeah.
Oh, Franziska.
No,
Yeah, we are very specific with what products we use, but sometimes it's difficult in a gray black market situation. But most patients in our association, they are using a long time. They have perfectionated their medicine. So some patients have something flower for inhalation in the morning and a different strain in the evening. So something they wake them up and something maybe they make them more relaxed and helps against spasm. So I use in the morning a strain who helps me against the fatigue. So I have very strong fatigue, and with the right strain, I can do a lot more in the day. So it helps me against the fatigue. And in the evening, I need a strong strain who can relax my mind and my body so I can sleep. So I have a strain who helps me to sleep. And I use these strains now maybe 6-7 years, and the dose is never changed. So I'm very, very well regulated. So it's going to be hard to find the same products now in the regulated market. And a lot of the patients that are already using and facing the same problems because they have very specialized their therapy, and now they have to shift over to the legal market. The most people really want to shift over to the legal market, and but it's there are huge problems because they don't know what the strains are, or people in the medical area use fantasy names we are not used of. So we have to try out the strains till we found the right strain for the right patient groups, and it's going to be, I think, hard way in the beginning. But when I watched to Germany, it took 1.5 years, and then it will settle hopefully down.
Yeah, it's for me, it's the same. I take cannabis as a oily extract in the mornings, quite high dosages. And during the day, I inhalate cannabis when I have acute pain. And I also like to use a cannabis cream to put it directly on the spots they hurt. So I have different form of intake, and every form works a bit different. And for me, it's also important to have different strains. So cannabis has a lot of different varieties, and every variety has another works a little bit different, have another impact on the body, and this is very good, especially for chronic pain patients. So you can use different strains that you are not getting used to it as too much. So for me, it's good to change the strains from time to time. Yeah, so cannabis is not, yeah, it's a very, how can I say, you can use it in so different ways, and it have different effects on the body. And I think it's very difficult to explain this to the doctors because they are not on the same level like the patients. And in my case, so if I really need a cannabis oil and flowers and probably a cream or something, then the costs will explode and I won't be able to buy them on a legal access. So it's really important that the products won't be too expensive. And this is what happened in Switzerland in the moment. So the products are very expensive, not very high in dosage. So some people really need to take a lot of it, and then the costs are just too high.
So you made a lot of very important points there, Francisco, particularly the fact that cannabis, first of all, is not a one-size-fits-all treatment option. Also, it doesn't just come in one form. You mentioned the flowers, the creams, the oils. From my own observation in Canada, I know that there was this, but there still is today, this period where people are not happy with the quality of the flowers that are available, both in the recreational market and in the medical market. And I see we have one of our audience members, Claire, who asked us the question, and we just learned here that we can actually pop the questions up onto the screen. So thank you for that, Viola. But I was wondering, from your guys' personal experience in Switzerland, what has your guys' perspective been on the quality of the product so far? And has there been any development over the time that you've been, taking cannabinoid medicines in terms of, positive in the product quality?
Yeah, we have to say Switzerland, we only have a very few products, and this doesn't really has to do something with cannabis medicine. So we have a few oils in the moment we can get, and now we start to get cannabis flowers, but we cannot say much to the quality right now because there are only a few patients who have access to it until now.
Yeah, all the flowers were imported in the beginning, so we had a lot of Chiron strains from Portugal and from Holland, some strains. And just now they're starting with delivered the Swiss products, but the accessibility in the pharmacies is still very bad. So only a very few number of patients I know have access till now to flowers.
And
A handful.
yeah. The second question I want to ask, which I saw was already also asked in the comments, is are the costs covered by the Swiss healthcare insurers? Because you mentioned, Francisca, that the costs for what you actually need can just skyrocket pretty quickly. What has been the situation there within Switzerland up until now?
No, unfortunately, the insurance does not pay, or they do not have to pay. So it's in the moment, it's only a few patients that they get covered by the insurance. So in my case, I get some money from the insurance, but it's not enough for all the medicaments I need.
Yeah, can I just add a little thing? Basically, for now, the law remains pretty vague in the sense that it says that it's possible the reimbursement in particular cases when the use of the product is expected to provide an important therapeutic benefit against a disease that can be fatal to the insured or cause serious or chronic damage to health. So it's such a general statement that I would assume majority of insurance provider are managing to find their way out of it. So that's why we really need to make a point of increasing doctors on board and actually having a critical mass of patients so that something can change in terms of reimbursement, because otherwise it remain a very expensive supplement for an elite. And I guess this is as much as a goal for Medcan, a goal for Cannabiscientia, because there is never going to be true patient access if medicines are just way too expensive for the majority of the population. So it's great if we can create awesome medicines, but if only the 1% of the population can access it, then there is no point. And on this, I'm seeing comments as well. Thank you, Andrew, for your input as well, because watching laws as they change is absolutely fundamental, and Switzerland is still in a transition moment. And this is something that I keep repeating for anyone in cannabis conferences or so on, that we aren't just witnessing this change, but we truly are author of this change. So it's for any of you that are currently watching and are working now in a company that is either manufacturing or producing medical cannabis, you need to be part of this change, because this is the objective that we all need to reach as a synergetic group, and we have the possibility now to do it.
Absolutely. And I also would just like to add to that, there are a lot of companies in the industry, a lot of brands, a lot of products, but really we're doing everything that we're doing for the patient. So we really encourage any of these players in the industry to look at the markets where you're trying to build your presence, find out who the patient associations are, and help to work and support with them, because at the end of the day, it will also do good for your business. And we also cannot forget that we're in this industry and in this business to offer relief and help patients. So for anybody in the audience right now, if you can drop a like or a heart or anything, so we can get more eyes on these patient perspectives. Also, keep an eye open. There's going to be more lives coming up with more patient associations. If you're part of a patient association and would like to speak with us, also reach out to us. And I think we're going to use these last 10 seconds just to say one more time to you, Franziska, and you, Simon, a big thank you for taking the time today. Big thank you to what MedCan does for the patients in Switzerland. You know that you have our support. Also, a big shout out to IACM. We're going to be hopefully getting more of your colleagues on to get more perspectives from patients. And again, to anybody in the audience, if you want to help or support, drop a like, drop a heart, reach out to Francisco, reach out to Simon, check out the MedCan page, check out IACM. And on that note, everybody, thank you very much. And if you have any more questions, add them in the comments. We will keep an eye on them, and we will be responding. So, riesengroßes Dankeschön. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vielen Dank.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Schönen Abend.